Hey everyone, so I wanted to do a video on the value proposition of HEX because there is a scene in the movie, probably my favorite scene, The Highest of Stakes, the HEX documentary. If you haven't seen it already, check it out. But this scene where Lamont Black, Professor Lamont Black, the HEX economist, um, and Kelly, the kind of fraud detective, are having a chat with Richard Hart in Spain, and the kind of value proposition, or the idea of like what does HEX even do, comes up, and Lamont kind of pushes Richard on this point, and Richard kind of really calmly responds that HEX, the value proposition is the virtual lending. That's a big part of it. There's this symbiotic relationship between liquid holders and stakers, these two groups of people in HEX. And yeah, he mentioned virtual lending, which he's mentioned a few times in different streams. And the first time that I heard it, and I think Lamont also, he was kind of caught off guard by that idea. The first time I heard it, I couldn't really wrap my head around it, and you kind of see Lamont kind of grappling with this on his Twitter posts and stuff. And recently, Golkey posted this video of Richard explaining it really well. And then underneath, I also commented with this kind of a graphic showing kind of virtual lending. And what I'll do is I'll just play this video because I think it's really good, and then I'll talk about the graphic in a bit more detail. So what is the virtual lending kind of feature or aspect in HEX?
HEX is virtual lending,
No.
but you don't understand that it's virtual lending.
No, there's no lending. Who are
Yes,
you
there
lending to?
is. Listen, when you lock up your coins, do you think that value just disappears? No. That value is transmitted to the only people that can harvest it, which are the people that aren't staked. And the people that aren't staked get diluted, a form of payment, a form of interest, which
Right,
is
but they
paid
can
to the
sell- no, they
people
can
that
sell.
are staked. HEX is virtual lending.
No.
Okay, yeah, so summarized in this graphic, what he's basically talking about here is that there are two groups of people. There are the liquid holders on the left, and then there are the stakers on the right, kind of two classes of people in HEX, right? And you're free to choose whatever you want to do in HEX. You don't have to stake. You can just keep your tokens liquid. Now, there are trade-offs, right? And it's a completely fair system. It's an auto-balancing system. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the people who are liquid, they have the benefit of being able to sell their coins at any given moment, right? They can market sell their coins. Now, the trade-off there is that they get diluted, and I'll get to that in a bit. Now, the people who are staked, the big thing and the very sticky thing about HEX is that you cannot sell. You are locked in to that stake, that commitment. If you stake for 15 years, you're not able to really exit that position. And I won't go into too much detail about that, but just in your head, imagine you are locked into that commitment for 15 years, right? Now, why would people lock their HEX up? Well, you get more HEX. So something that you need to understand is that the HEX supply inflates slightly, and that's kind of what you can see here with this gray bubble slowly getting bigger and bigger over time. The HEX supply increases gradually, and as a staker, you are essentially, what you're doing when you stake is you are HEX is like an accounting system, right? Like when you stake, you are saying, hey, look, I want this percentage of the T-share supply, right? Like I want this share of the inflation. And when you claim your stake, you get T-shares. Those T-shares are just your percentage. Say you have like 1% of the T-shares, you get 1% of the inflation rewards. And so your stake grows over time in line with your percentage of the total system, right? Now, if you're liquid, that you don't benefit from that. Your HEX doesn't grow in line with the supply. So the result, just like adding more water to a glass of juice or whatever, is you get diluted, right? Your HEX effectively becomes a smaller part of the total ecosystem. And although you still have the same number of HEX, other people have way more hex now than you than when you started, and so kind of your value goes down over time, even though the number of hex that you have doesn't. Now, why would you hold liquid hex then? Well, you can sell at any time. And so you can kind of see that there's this trade-off here. I can sell, but I get diluted. I can't sell, but I don't get diluted. I get more hex. I keep up with the inflation of the system. And so that's why hex is a really fair value transfer. And why is it virtual lending? This is really important because these people cannot, as Richard said, they cannot sell, they cannot realize the value that they have locked up, but these liquid holders can. So it's kind of like the value that has been staked in the system has kind of like been passed over to the users who can sell in the form of the price chart. So when the price goes up a lot, basically the stakers are protecting the price, and the people holding liquid are able to realize gains and sell at the cost of being diluted, right? So that is the virtual transfer of value from stakers to non-stakers that is going on. And that's kind of like a service between these two groups of individuals, right? It's like a symbiotic relationship. And then the rest is accounting. It's just an accounting system of like, okay, who owns what? You own these many T-shares. You own this many shares of the inflation. You get this, you get that, right? But this is the core value proposition of HEX. And you can kind of see Lamont kind of likes the video, and he also likes the graphic, and he wants to use it. So I wanted to jump over here into Canva just to show you, we have that same graphic here, and just to like really show you what's going on. If you're a liquid holder, over time, this is basically what's going to be happening to you, right? The supply of HEX is going to grow bigger, and your kind of relative ownership of the entire system is going to get smaller, even though the size of your HEX is the same. You have 100 tokens or whatever, right? Now, if you're a staker, what is going to happen is that you're going to keep up with inflation. If you're an average length, average size staker, and your percentage of the overall system is going to keep up with the size of the system, the supply of HEX, right? And so you can kind of see what happens in the end. The liquid holder could sell all the way throughout the 15 years or however long they staked, but the staker cannot sell, but they benefit from the increase in value or keeping up with the value of the system. So I hope that explains the value proposition a bit better and what this virtual lending aspect means in HEX, because I think it's a really, really core idea and it's central to the value proposition and the game theory behind how HEX works.